On this episode of Watch Stuff with Us, Dune Prophecy, Episode 3, Trailer Review. Thanks for checking out another episode of Watch Stuff with Us. I'm JD. Please hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, drop a comment below because I know you want to. I know you want to interact with this show because I'm awesome. I said that real convincing, didn't I? But anyway, we are watching Dune Prophecy episode 3 tonight on the stream for the watch party, but you're watching this on demand, and we are going to preview the episode by watching a trailer for the episode. So we're going to get that going right now. All right, let me get that up real quick. All right, so here we go. Dune episode 3 trailer review.
Mother Superior.
I think a trip home is called for.
Today we are taking a deep dive in the latest trailer of episode 3 of Dune Prophecy, which is titled Sisterhood Above All. Now episode 2 left us wondering if Lila is gone forever, trapped in her own mind after performing the agony, as Valia was left speechless after using a voice on Hart and it having no effect on him. Now episode 1 had a lot of heavy lifting to do to provide us with a lot of exposition, while episode 2 really laid the groundwork of what's to come, which speaking of, it looks like episode 3 will take us back in the past to really understand what young Valia and Tula had to do to become members of the Sisterhood. Now the synopsis for episode 3 reads, following a tragedy, young Tula worries about being accepted despite her family name, while a skeptical Valia struggles with the decision to take the vow of sisterhood. With that being said, spoiler warning ahead for the previous episode alongside my theories and predictions based on this trailer. Which by the way, you can find the full trailer of this third episode in the description of this very video. Now our first shot of the trailer shows Valia most likely returning from her trip to tell the rest of the Sisterhood about their new enemy Hart, as you'll see the mother surrounding her as well as the Adosha in the back, as Valia states that a trip home is called for. As we get the flashback to young Valia on the planet her family was sent to after being banned for being labeled as...
All right. So this episode that we have coming up looks like it's going to be a flashback episode to Valia and Tula when they were younger. Personally, I don't know if I really want to see that. Like, I I get what they're doing, and I know that we need to get the background, but I don't know if I'm sold on it. I don't know if I'm sold on the show altogether. I definitely don't know if I'm sold on the characters, especially Valia and Tula, because they are pretty much the stars of the show, and I don't know how much I actually care about them at this point. Said that multiple times during our live stream, and I'm going to keep on saying it until they give me a reason to actually give a darn, which they haven't yet.
being labeled as cowards during the war against the thinking machines. You'll notice the whales in the background, which speaks to their trade as being welfare sellers, as this was seen and mentioned back in episode 1. We see how Valia wasn't convinced that this life on this planet was one that she was willing to endure, as she has aspirations to leading the Imperium. Which brings us to seeing young Tula, as well as shots of what's assumed to be the rest of the direct family members. Maybe they have brothers and a mom and a dad, and we might get to meet them in this episode, and maybe...
Now that would be interesting if we got to meet a little bit of their family, maybe to give a little bit of background on why they decided to join the sisterhood. That might be a little bit helpful. Air's Vibe with another comment real quick. I'm not a fan of a flashback whole episode, especially this early on in the show. I think the flashback episode can be good as long as the information that it's giving is like 100% essential. I think it is a little bit better, and I'll agree with you that it is a little bit better when you have a flashback episode and you have fully established characters and you know what their motivations are, you know what they're trying to do, and then you go back and show like, man, okay, now this is why she decided to do that, this is why they decided to do this. In this one, I know what I know what the sisterhood is all about and what they're trying to get established, but I don't really know if it matters as much at this point. I mean, hopefully they're going to give us some, some teasers in the background that's going to make us care a little bit more. Maybe this is actually just what we need. As far as I know, I don't know. I don't know. We'll see though.
And maybe they have something that Valia can use, hinting at her return to going back home. Now, as a Game of Thrones fan, I almost jumped out of my seat when I saw Mark Addy, who played one of my all-time favorite characters in that show, who went by the name of Robert Baratheon.
Look at this idiot. One ball and no.
I didn't even recognize that was him. Yeah, I love Game of Thrones, man. If this show is trying to be like Game of Thrones, it has some very large shoes to fill. We're not going to get into the end of Game of Thrones because that's a whole different discussion. But as far as greatness, this show has a long way to go before it gets to that point.
Brains. He can't even put a man's armor on him properly.
You're too fat for your armor.
Oh, it's funny, is it?
Now, he's listed as playing Valia and Tula's uncle and a once powerful member of the banished House of Harkonnen. Now, it's also said that he blames Valia for their family's fall from grace, which may speak to this moment in the trailer when he calls Valia a sorcerer after it appears she tries using a voice on him or someone in this scene.
Be quiet, sorceress!
We have these quick shots of
I always laugh when they use the voice. It's
shots of showing us young and older Tula, as older Tula is seen here with the device that we've seen the Mother Superiors carrying around, and we know that this gives them access to the breeding archives. To me, this might be Tula seeking ways to get Lila.
Now, the breeding archives and stuff, that is interesting that they have all these genetic markers for people, and they are trying to bring forth what their version of the Messiah is by having these people conceive conceive children, and then hopefully that child is the Messiah or close enough to it that they can continue down and continue to build and eventually have them turn into what is it, the Kwisatz Cataract? I think that's what it is. So bad trying to pronounce all this stuff. But you get what I mean.
Happened to her during the agony process, as that leads us to one of the sisters telling Tula that nobody has ever returned from the state that Lila was left in, as Tula states that she will do what needs to be done when she chooses. As the camera pans into the glass, it seems like there's some type of liquid.
Yeah, I just don't know. Seattle Ryan, what is up? It's been a while, man. It's been a while. Can I just say, why won't Max do Raised by Wolves season 3? Just saying, that show was fire. Yeah, I enjoyed that show. Me and my wife actually watched. We binge watched the whole first season like in a day. So yeah, I was definitely feeling that show. But yeah, this one, it's not quite at those standards yet. Maybe it'll get there though. Have you been watching this one?
Liquid inside of here, but it also might be mixed in with some spice. Next, we see this shot of people chanting around a fire, and it seems that they are saying Atreides. Here's where we see young Tula again, and there's an orange glow coming off of her face, which makes me believe that she's at the same spot where these people are chanting. From here, we see this intimate scene, which I believe Tula is here as well, because the white dress from the previous shot is the same one that we see here. Now, I believe that Tula may have had a relationship going on, and this is where my theory starts to kick in. Now, back in episode 2, when Valia leaves to investigate what happened to Pruitt and Kesha, she was hesitant to let Tula lead to school because she's afraid of making tough choices. But Tula says something on the lines of having made tough choices in the past. What if Tula was either willingly or unwillingly in a relationship with an Atreides and may have gotten pregnant in the process, and let's just say this was all a part of some big plan from her older sister to prove themselves in order to get a part of this?
I feel like that prediction is probably spot on. That's probably spot on. Either that or she had to choose her she couldn't choose her lover or whoever she was involved in a relationship with because of what she needed to do in the sisterhood.
The sisterhood, or at the very least, they did this in order to get some type of power or control. As we get this shot of Tula who's looking up at a bull, which we know has close ties to Atreides, which again makes me believe that this is all taking place in the same camp. As it's here where we hear Tula saying, "Promise me this will be."
If you have, you're in the right place then, bro. because you know I'm gonna be watching it, and I might need your help, like you did for the other shows too.
To me, this will be a fresh start for us. Again, has Tula been used by her sister to gain control or power, or will we see one of their first assignments to initiate
Yeah, I definitely think that Valia is the more sinister of the sisters, and Tula is the more benevolent sister. I think she just kind of goes along with the flow with her sister. I think they have the same sort of goals, but Tula may be more pure in what she wants, and Valia more willing to do anything and everything to get what she wants and to get the sisterhood to where she wants them to be at.
with the sisterhood by infiltrating House Atreides? And this also might speak to one of the many reasons why the two houses hate one another. As we have this shot of the sisters leaving the ship, and young Valia states that we have a new purpose now, this may be the introduction to the sisterhood as we see Mother Rakella. Here we have the shot of the person who's dressed in all white. Again, this could be a young Tula who's in that same white dress from the previous clips that we've seen in this trailer so far.
Big shout out to that dude named Dave. Congratulations on hitting your 20K, sir. Trying to get to 250 on my channel. But yeah, big shout out to you, man. We're watching Dune Prophecy episode 3 coming up tonight. So we are doing a quick little recap and preview from the trailer for the episode. So thanks for stopping by, my man.
So far, as here we see Valia performing the agony on herself, which, knowing how driven she is and based on things that we saw in this very trailer alone, it wouldn't surprise me if Valia performed the agony on herself and sped up the process to being a part of the sisterhood.
That's wild that if she actually did the agony herself, like solo, like I would think that you definitely need to have somebody there with you to kind of help you through it, or at least to be there when you come out on the other side. But for her to do it alone and solo, like that's kind of rough.
Herself worthy by immediately becoming a Reverend Mother without waiting 10 years to practice their ways. I'm almost thinking that she maybe forced herself into this group by jumping straight into becoming a Reverend Mother. Now we see young Valia screaming in agony after doing the process. Now we know that she survives this process, but I am very curious to see if we see her perspective of her seeing her ancestors like we saw with Lila in episode 2. As we get these shots here, we have someone stating crisis, survival, advancements as the group of sisters look at who I assume is Valia, most likely after just joining the sisterhood and maybe even after performing the agony. As we see Dorothea here, it was very clear back in episode 1 that her and Valia didn't get along well, and it seemed that her and Dorothea's grandmother, the Mother Supreme, favored Valia, which added fuel to Dorothea disapproving of her. As we get these quick flashes into present day of
I see we have like 25 people watching right now. Big shout out to everybody on X watching right now. Big shout out to my folks on Twitch watching right now. Just so you know, if you're watching on Twitch, you can drop a comment and I will air it on the screen. So don't just sit there, interact with the show. And big shout out as always to my folks on YouTube for hanging out.
day of Valia and Theodosia leaving the Emperor's palace into a shot of two unknown characters on a horse. As we get this really quick shot of someone's hand dropping, and again, I think this goes back to Tula being the person that I believe was getting intimate earlier in the trailer, and again, I believe she is willing or unwillingly in a relationship with an Atreides. Maybe he was the head of that Atreides at that particular location, but ultimately she had
Good theory. Good theory. But yeah, ultimately she probably had to give that person up and make some sort of sacrifice of them in order for her to do what her sister wants her to do.
kill them. Again, going back to Tula saying she's made tough decisions before, maybe this was one of them and her having to be responsible for murdering an Atreides. We end with the shot of Tula walking into the gardens, into this shot of Lila in a chamber with what seems to be that same material that Tula had in that cup, and again, I believe she's experimenting with the spice in order to get Lila back. Now, I'll share the theory back in my episode 2 breakdown that I could see Tula maybe looking for Lila's mother and having her perform the agony in order to save her daughter Lila. As we have this shot here of the mothers from a shot looking
So the agony isn't like what is it called? It's not like forever. I thought that even if you had it and you were able to survive it somehow, you were okay. But if you died during the agony, like you were gone for good. So it's interesting that you can possibly come back from it, I guess.
them, which to me speaks to someone entering that realm after performing the agony. Now, this could be Lila's perspective, with Tula trying to help her out and getting her out of that realm, or this could be a shot from Violet's perspective from what we see her taking the agony and doing that process earlier in this trailer. As our last shot shows Valia in present day in what seems to be an elevator telling someone that sisterhood above all, which again is the title of this episode, but it makes me think her saying this now might speak to her doing something that's going to service the sisterhood. Now, it's important to note that we didn't see any present timeline shots of the Emperor or Nez or Hart, but I do believe that while the episode will be mostly focusing on the past, I wouldn't be surprised if we see the storylines be split up between the timelines being the past and the present, and the percentage being more like 60-40. Now the question is, what will Valia find on her trip back home? Will we see any of her or Tula's direct family still being alive, like a mother?
We definitely need to get some more Desmond Hart in this episode, as he seems to be the only character that I really give a darn about at this point. So gonna ask that they that the show give us a little bit more of him and some more background on him.
Mother and a father, and of course her uncle. Do they have other siblings or other relatives that will matter in this storyline? What sacrifices have each of these sisters, Valia and Tula, made to get into their sisterhood? Did Tula have a relationship with an Atreides that led to a death or a pregnancy in order to gain something? Will Tula find some way to get Lila back? And if she is brought back, it was said that no one has ever made that return before, so will she come back completely different? Well, we'll find out this Sunday, December 1st, so make sure, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit the bell notification, that way you don't miss out on any of my...
All right, so yeah, we pretty much watched that recap. Yeah, I think that this episode, being a flashback episode, has the potential to be either very good or very bad. Um, and I don't really think that there's going to be any in between. I'm going to side with it being very good only because the end of the last episode was really good. So I think they're going to try to keep that momentum going. It would suck for it to just take a backslide and go backwards a little bit. Like, nah, I definitely don't want to see that. So with it being a flashback episode, that does make me a little bit nervous, but it could actually be a good thing if we get some very pertinent information shared through these flashback scenes. So thanks for checking this out with me. I'm JD. Please hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, drop a comment below. Let me know what you think this upcoming episode is going to be about. And be sure to hang out with us each and every Sunday, 7 p.m. Central Time, for our watch party of Dune Prophecy. We'll see you later. Peace.